don't mind. It's not even that much. When I say such a vibe. Sorry, can I just have everyone's attention for one moment? Sorry. First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. And thank you for being with us today for our first art exhibition at Palestinian Return Centre. This art exhibition is entitled Visualising Return. So my name is Farrah Koutteineh. I work as the head of advocacy and PR at the Palestinian Return Centre, and I'm also the curator of this exhibition. Visualising Return is a unique exhibition envisioning what the innate Palestinian right of return means to Palestinian artists waiting to return themselves. Visualising Return delves into not only the meaning of return for Palestinian refugee creators internally displaced and those externally exiled in the diaspora, but it delves into how the right to return is at the very core of the Palestinian struggle and Palestinian identity. It impassionately delves into the single most important element of the Palestinian plight, yet internationally overlooked, the right of return. The date of this exhibition falls on the 73rd anniversary of the creation of UN Resolution 194, a resolution that legally outlines the grounds and calls for the immediate return of all Palestinian refugees. The date of this exhibition was intentionally chosen on the anniversary of UN Resolution 194, as the exhibition intends to emphasize the necessity of granting Palestinian refugees this long overdue human right. As it isn't only 73 years since the creation of UN Resolution 194, but has been 73 continuous years of exile, dispossession and displacement. We created this art exhibition with the intention that any person who comes will leave this exhibition with putting support and solidarity with the right to return at the forefront of their support. And without further ado, I just want to introduce our director for a brief speech, Malak.
Thank you, Farrah, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Despite the cold weather, despite the circumstances of the new COVID variant, at the same time, I'm glad to be together again after about in-person event after 2 years. First of all, I would like to thank Farrah, the curator, the exhibition curator, for the efforts, the enormous efforts exerted ahead of the launch of the Return Week. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first express my delight and appreciation of the enormous efforts exerted ahead of the launch of the Return Week. Our deepest gratitude goes to PRC team along with our partners, namely P21 Gallery. This event comes as the Palestinians and their supporters throughout the world are marking the International Day in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And to commemorate the UN Resolution 194, it comes as part of our endless attempts to remind the public, international community, governments of the Palestinian struggle for self-determination, nationhood, and the right to return. I'm pleased to speak to you as part of this special artistic event to inaugurate the Return Week. This artistic exhibition embodies PRC's belief that art serves as a weapon of resistance. And the artistic expression is a translation of the heavy toll of colonization has had on Palestinian people for over a century. Return Week comes amidst an alarming situation, exacerbated not only by the COVID-19 pandemic, but also by Israel's simmering human rights violations and escalating policy of apartheid, mass collective punishment, and ethnic cleansing. I'm addressing you today not only in my capacity as Director General of the PRC, but as I used to repeat that I am a refugee. A refugee who was born, grown up in a refugee camp in a small town called Mzirib in South Syria. A refugee who knows how it feels like to be torn from the nourishment of home and warmth of family. As we stand here today, Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, including Jerusalem, continue to live under a 53-year-long Israeli military occupation and its violent settler colonial practices that include home demolitions, house evictions, residency revocations, settlement expansion, child arrests, arbitrary detentions, and torture, amongst other issues. This year's Return Week is also a stark reminder that Palestinian refugees in exile across the Arab region and world continue to grapple with dire conditions in poorly equipped refugee camps and substandard migrant facilities, where they have been facing discrimination, in particular Palestinian refugees from Syria and Lebanon. On this occasion, it's important to remind ourselves of the vital role played by the global civil solidarity. Thanks to worldwide support and activism in favor of the Palestinian cause, Israel's mass eviction plan against Palestinians living in Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood has never come true. Today, in climate change and the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, the Palestinian flag has become an emblem, symbol of the never-ending human struggle for freedom, justice, and against racism in its all forms. The worldwide support to the Palestinian people, solidarity campaigns, and legal battles waged against Israel's war crimes and the human rights violations have served to further isolate and delegitimize the occupying entity. But today, Israel and its lobbies continue to wage voracious campaigns under the guise of anti-Semitism, extremism, terrorism. The recent blacklisting of 6 Palestinian human rights groups involved in humanitarian, non-violent, and peaceful work as terror organizations is a striking example of Israel's scramble to quell human rights voices. Ladies and gentlemen, Palestinians remain committed to fighting for their rights, namely liberation, independence, and right to return to their homeland, from which they have been forced out since 1948. We, as PRC, will continue to speak up for the Palestinian cause until the occupation of Palestine is ended, refugees return to their homes, and an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital is established on the Palestinian soil, as per international law and relevant UN resolution. Until these rights are restored and Israeli occupation is ended, the longest struggle in human history will never come to an end. Thank you.
Without further ado, please explore the exhibition. Please take a booklet and help yourself to food and drinks. And thank you again for coming.
About like 50 charges of confidentiality because he posted all his art and actually put up in like the ad space on Muslim. And it's obviously he hijacked it. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm studying fine art at UAL. My second year. I did politics and IR. No, I didn't complete that. I dropped out. Yeah, because I was too scared to write art, so I had to do politics. figure it out. And then if you're actually looking for what's interesting, politics at websites first, because I don't like, I would say, oh, right, how did you go to university? So I no one else is going to go to the party, and if people don't like, I know it's different.